Advisory. Some episodes of the 1836 podcast are not intended for all audiences, due to details that might be considered disturbing. Listener and viewer discretion is advised.
Episode 33 of the 1836 podcast, Lum and Abner.
All right. If you think you're so smart, I'll tell you what I'll do, just to show you which one of us is the best at out loud talking.
What's that?
Well, you was complaining about wanting to be president of the Jot 'em Down store when we get it opened up.
Oh, you gonna let me be it?
No, wait a minute now. We'll just leave it up to our friends to see who's going to be it.
Our friend?
Yes, sir. Just let them decide which one of us ought to be president. Just make an announcement over the party line and tell them when they send in a robber for one of these flashlights just to write on the back of it which one of us they want to be president.
Oh.
If they want you, why, they can write Abner.
Yeah.
If they want me, they write Lum across it. Then we'll let each one of them robbers count as a vote. And the one of us that gets the most of them is elected to the office. Ain't going to have no mudslinging in this campaign.
Huh?
I say, we ain't going to have no mudslinging. Ain't going to throw mud at one another.
Well, whatever give you the idea that I want to throw mud on you anyway, for goodness sake.
I never said nothing about throwing mud on me. I said we're not going to throw mud at one another.
Well, how are we going to throw it at one another without getting some of it on us? We ain't going to miss every time, Lum. I know that. I can throw straight.
I ain't talking about real mud, Abner.
Well, I never seen no other kind. Mud's mud.
So, Joe, what do you remember about Lum and Abner? Because I never really got to listen to them until recently. There's some stuff you can listen to in the archives, but you'd mentioned the other day that you remember actually them being on the radio.
Got reruns. The stuff I listened to, I'll tell my funny little story. When I was a kid growing up over in Lawrence County, the local radio station KRLW, in the morning, like when I would get ready to go to school, Mom be fixing breakfast and she'd have the radio on, and they had the Lum and Abner show on. And I thought it was a current show. I had no idea that it was like reruns from like the 30s or the 40s or whenever they originally aired. And so we were, I remember sitting up at the bus stop. We used to walk to the top of the hill and sit at the old post office, and we'd talk. The kids would talk about what was going on at the Jot 'em Down store, and it wasn't until I was having a conversation with my grandma that she told me that she used to listen to them when she was a girl, and I was sitting there thinking, what? These guys can't be that old, And then I found out that it was a popular radio show back in the day, and we were listening to old reruns. So that was my exposure to Lum and Abner originally.
Yeah.
Chester Lauck was born on February 9th, 1902, in the small town of Aleen, Arkansas, but grew up in Mena, Arkansas. He graduated from Mena High School in 1920, where he met Norris Goff, sparking a friendship that would profoundly shape both their lives and careers.
Norris Goff, born on May 30th, 1906 in Cove, Arkansas, also grew up in Mena and graduated from Mena High School in 1924. He continued his education at the University of Arkansas, where he became a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity.
Lauck and Goff started their careers as blackface performers, a widely practiced but controversial form of comedy at the time. However, they soon discovered their niche in rural hillbilly comedy, drawing inspiration for their characters and sketches from their small-town upbringing in Waters, a town that would later be immortalized as Pine Ridge, thanks to their show.
Their success came in 1931, during a rural comedy skit during a flood relief broadcast on KTHS, a radio station in Hot Springs, Arkansas. There they created the characters Lum and Abner, originally planning to mimic the popular Amos and Andy show. Lauck and Goff pivoted at the last minute to create hillbilly characters.
Amos and Andy, which aired from 1928 to 1960, was an American radio sitcom about two black friends who left their rural life for the big city. Set in Chicago and later Harlem, New York City, the show was created, written, and voiced by white actors Freeman Gosden and Charles Carell, who portrayed Amos Jones and Andrew Hogg Brown, among other characters. With blackface acts already saturating the airwaves, Lauck and Goff chose to develop their own characters.
In a moment of creative inspiration, they named them Lum Edwards and Abner Peabody, leading to the creation of Lum and Abner and its lasting impact on radio history. Set in the fictional town of Pine Ridge, Arkansas, Lum and Abner revolved around the humorous adventures of Lum Edwards, known for his harebrained get-rich-quick schemes, and Abner Peabody, his cautious and often skeptical partner. The duo ran the Jot 'em Down store, and their interactions with the town's eccentric residents provided the show's humor, steeped in Southern charm and the unique dialect of the Ozarks.
Their hillbilly skit was an instant hit, leading to a regular 15-minute radio show on Sunday evenings on KTHS. Their local popularity soon caught the attention of NBC, which brought Lum and Abner to a much wider audience, catapulting them into the national spotlight and becoming a beloved staple of American radio.
Yeah, they started out young. Chester Lauck and Norris Goff, both from what was then called Waters, Arkansas. They both went to school at Mena and graduated in 1924. It all started in 1931. They were doing some skits for flood relief at a radio station, and they had been doing blackface comedy, which everybody knows what that is. We really won't get into that. But they decided not to do that anymore, and instead of that, they decided to create two characters on the fly that really made fun of themselves and their own folks and hometown, and it took off and became a hit.
After establishing a strong local following with their Sunday broadcasts, Lauck and Goff auditioned for NBC in Chicago. Their distinctive hillbilly comedy quickly secured them a spot on the network, launching their national success.
The show's widespread appeal was reflected in its sponsorship by major companies such as Quaker Oats, Ford Motor Company, Horlicks Malted Milk, Alka-Seltzer, General Foods, and General Mills, underscoring its commercial success. Lum and Abner achieved several notable milestones, including being the first network program to broadcast from Radio City in New York in 1933. It also pioneered the first marathon charity broadcast and conducted the first transatlantic simulcast, with Lauck in London and Goff in Chicago.
In 1939, the show's success led Lauck and Goff to Hollywood, where they ventured into motion pictures. They starred in 7 films between 1940 and 1956. Although these films did not match the radio show's success, they were an important part of their career.
The transition to visual media proved challenging for Lauck and Goff. The unique charm of Lum and Abner, rooted in the diverse personalities they portrayed on radio, did not easily translate to film or television. Their attempts to bring Lum and Abner to the small screen were ultimately unsuccessful, as neither effort captured the essence of the original show. Combined with competition from other television programs, these challenges marked the end of Lum and Abner's journey in visual media.
Despite these difficulties, the legacy of Lum and Abner continues. The show is celebrated for its authenticity and humor, which struck a chord with audiences during the Great Depression and World War II. Its broadcasts on Armed Forces Radio during the war played a crucial role in boosting troop morale, highlighting the show's lasting impact and appeal.
Lum and Abner stands as one of the most successful radio shows of all time, running for 25 years across all 4 major networks: NBC, Mutual, CBS, and ABC. The show garnered an impressive average of 15,000 fan letters each week and aired around 5,800 daily live broadcasts. Its vivid portrayal of small-town life helped solidify its significant place in American radio history.
Yeah, it was kind of that beginning of that era of hillbilly humor, which become really popular. I mean, you can look at any of the old music shows like Louisiana Hayride and the Grand Ole Opry and what was our one, the Ozarks Jubilee out of Springfield. You know, a lot of those used the comedians were always kind of a hillbilly caricature and comedy relief, and so yeah, they kind of grabbed that, and one was a straight guy and the other was the funny guy, and they had all the good characters that come along with it, and I still kind of long for those old radio shows. They're I think our TikTok and things like that, where you've got these little shorts that people do, kind of has taken the place of that. I think people still crave just being able to listen and let your imagination. You're not always looking at what's going on. You're just letting your mind decide what's going on. You know, what people look like, how they're dressed, and what the building looks like, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, they were, I think, in their 20s when they started, but they played two old men, and it lasted a long time. It was only a 15-minute little episode, and you can actually jump on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and search Lum and Abner, and you can find pretty much all those old episodes, and they're pretty interesting. Some of them still hold up today. Some of them are a little boring or not as funny as they probably were back then.
I think part of the deal is it's like any series. You've got to listen to a few of them. You can't just listen to one and let it stand on its own, because if you don't know the backstory, what's going on with the character, it's not funny. But once you kind of know what they're all about,
Yeah, I was mowing the other day, and the first one I listened to, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty brutal. But I listened to a few more, and they were getting better as I listened, so you're right about that. What do you think, how was their show different, rather than just copying Amos and Andy? What do you think stood out with their show as opposed to other shows back then?
I hear this is I'm gonna say this. I think that Lum and Abner was probably the first true sitcom. It was a situational comedy. It was at the Jot 'em Down store. There was some little brief forays to different places. It was at Pine Ridge, but almost everything happened at the Jot 'em Down store. For those of you that don't know, Jot 'em Down is you got credit at the store, so you write, jot it down for me. That's kind of the joke, the play on words there. But yeah, I really think that was the thing there. It was one of the first that just it was situated around a group of characters that reoccurred, and it was in one location. So
you think their own experiences and background kind of helped shape the characters for that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think anybody that has grown up in a small Arkansas town, whether it's in the Ozarks or the Delta, if you've been around there used to always be a general store, or a store that everybody went to, in the post office. I think you always got to see those old men that sit around on the bench and the Spit and Whittle Club, and that type of thing. The little town that I lived in at the time, Powhatan, which is close to Black Rock, which is close to Walnut Ridge, and not too far from Jonesboro, because Powhatan is real small. It was a town of 48, I believe, maybe. So there wasn't very many people that actually lived in the town, but we had a big Victorian courthouse, which ended up being a museum down the road, and it had a little old post office that was just a shotgun building. There was no plumbing in it. There was barely electricity. The wires was stapled to the outside. It had a wood stove in it. But every morning when you walked up there to go to school, there was about 3 or 4 old men that sit around, the stove in the wintertime, or sit out on the bench out in the front. A fellow by the name of Lester Ritchie was the postmaster, and he was a character. He liked to joke and have fun with us, and always telling stories and stuff. So you get to learn these guys like that. And I mean, if I was going to make up characters right now for something like that, those are the guys that I would use. The guys that I grew up around, the old men. Think about here in Yellville, so Wally Burleson had the blacksmith shop. Everybody kind of was in and out of there. It was kind of one of those central locations that everybody kind of either went by it or went to it at some point. So those are those same old guys that hung around.
We may need to change that to the barber shop.
And the barber shop too. I mean, it's and that's the way it is now. I mean, you think about it, and I'll tell on our old buddies down there, and the Sean Beaver and his bunch. Yeah, I said your name's Sean Beaver. What are you going to do about it? But you get him and Matt and all those guys that they come in there every week. You can go in there, and it's it's where guys hang out and talk, and you get to. Some guys are really funny, some guys are real droll, and they've all got their you get your chuckle and your laugh off of all of them at some point, and then you're one of those characters too, whether you know it or not, when you go in there. So. Yeah, we don't have enough of those places. So thank you, Sean, for keeping those things alive for us. But yeah, I think anytime you get a place that's the gathering place like that, you get those characters and those are. I think that's why that show is so endearing to me and a lot of other people. And you've listened to it enough where you kind of see your own little hometown in those characters. Even though they're kind of exaggerated, you still see some of the silly things that happen, and you see people go out of their way to do something nice for somebody. So it's kind of a cross section of small town America.
Got quite the local following. It wasn't too long NBC was calling just like that, man. They were sponsored by Quaker Oats, Ford Motor Company, Horlicks Malted Milk, Alka-Seltzer, General Foods, General Mills. Keep going on, but
and then at some point they did movie shorts, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. They went, yeah, they went all the way to movies, and I think tried to do a TV show, but it didn't do quite as well as the radio show. I guess when people are listed, they're using their imagination more.
Yeah.
And so
I remember my grandma saying that they had done some movies, and she they would go see those, and but yeah, I'm with you. That's what I said originally. I think that serial radio show, where you've got these characters going on, you get to make it up in your own mind what they look like and what they're all about.
It was on radio for 25 years.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Across all the major networks: NBC, Mutual, CBS, and ABC.
Radio, correct?
Right. Yeah. At one time, they averaged 15,000 fan letters each week. And I think they did 5,800 little shows, 15-minute shows. It's still going today. Like I said, you can turn on your Spotify and find them. In 25 years, across all the major radio networks. Why do you think people liked them? Think because they could relate to them, or they were different?
I think that's what it is. I think it was just like that. Even though it was set in Arkansas, it was still kind of small town America. Like I said, those characters that everybody knows, even though they may not be Lum and Abner and all the different characters that were on the show, it's still that cross section of America, of small town life. And it's kind of like the Andy Griffith Show, it's just, there's something endearing about it, because some of it's stuff that you wish life was like all the time, and some of it's just actual stuff that it lets you know that's real, that it's maybe in some small dose. It may not be Mayberry every day, but there's a little bit of the jot 'em down store in all of us out there. We're all good guys. Some people do some dumb things, but usually things get corrected at some point and fixed. So whether it's Andy doing it or Lum Edwards doing it, it's
Edwards.
Edwards. It's not no W there. Edwards.
Challenges and successes when they moved from radio to TV and movies. I know we already touched on that. Again, wasn't quite successful. What do you think? Why?
I think it goes. We keep on making that loop back to that same theme. I think that it's you lose the imagination, especially in characters like that, because you take something like the Lone Ranger, that it's this kind of masculine cowboy guy in the white hat with a mask on, and he's got his Indian companion, Native American companion. But you're told this, so it's easy to get a mental image of what that guy looks like. Superman, when it was on the radio, it's Cape Crusader. Cape Crusader. You talk about Batman, Robin. Any of those things, they're given a description of exactly what they look like. Superman has an S on his chest and a cape, and he flies through the air, and he's looks like mild-mannered Clark Kent, but he takes his glasses off and he looks a little bit different, but not really. You don't get that with Lum and Abner in shows like that, because they're kind of generic, nondescript characters. You kind of make up what they look like in your own mind. They might wear overalls, or they might wear a suit jacket and a top hat. Who knows? But in your mind, or the people who are listening, you can kind of make it up for yourself. And then once all of a sudden you think that's what they look like, and then all of a sudden you see them on the big screen, and they don't look nothing like you thought. I think that you kind of lose a little bit of the romanticism.
In their later years, Lauck and Goff gradually stepped away from the entertainment industry, but left behind a celebrated legacy. After retiring from show business, Chet Lauck embarked on various ventures. He purchased and improved a ranch near Las Vegas, which was later acquired by Howard Hughes and transformed into Spring Mountain Ranch State Park.
In 1956, Lauck transitioned to a career with Continental Oil Conoco in Houston, Texas, where he specialized in public relations and advertising. He appeared in Conoco television commercials as himself and as Lum, reinforcing his public persona. Upon retiring from Continental Oil, Lauck returned to Arkansas and settled in Hot Springs, where he co-founded an advertising agency with his son. He remained active as a public speaker and was appointed commissioner of the Arkansas State Racing Commission by Governor Dale Bumpers in 1970. Lauck passed away on February 21, 1980, in Hot Springs at the age of 78, and his contributions to broadcasting were honored with induction into the National Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame in the radio division.
Goff made occasional television appearances in the 1960s, including roles in Gomer Pyle, USMC, and The Andy Griffith Show. After retiring, he settled in Palm Springs, California, and passed away from a stroke in Palm Desert in 1978 at the age of 72. Goff's portrayal of Abner Peabody left a lasting mark on American radio and comedy, securing his place in entertainment history.
In 1984, the National Lum and Abner Society was founded, and today several social media fan groups contribute to preserving the legacy of these iconic characters. Complementing these efforts, the Lum and Abner Museum in Pine Ridge, Arkansas, opened in the 1970s and listed on the National Register of Historic Places, serves as a tribute to the show and its inspiration. The museum features a replica of the Jot 'em Down store showcasing Lum and Abner's significant impact on American entertainment.
Lum and Abner's influence on American culture is both broad and enduring. Their portrayal of small-town life and rural characters played a major role in shaping the hillbilly stereotype in entertainment, impacting later shows like The Beverly Hillbillies, Green Acres, and Hee Haw. Their reach extended beyond radio to influence the comic strip Lil Abner.
The town of Waters, Arkansas was officially renamed Pine Ridge in 1936 to honor the show, emphasizing its profound cultural impact.
So all good things must come to an end. The show did finally end, and afterwards, Lauck went to work for Conoco in Houston, Texas, where he was the public relations fella in advertising. He would appear on TV and commercials as Lum. He ended up coming back to Arkansas, settling in Hot Springs, co-founded a advertising agency with his son, and remained pretty active for a while. And then on February 21st, 1980, he passed away in Hot Springs at the age of 78. Ended up being the National Broadcasters Hall of Fame radio division. So left his mark in the radio world. And then Goff, he ended up moving out to California and made appearances in Gomer Pyle in USMC and the Andy Griffith Show. And he ended up dying out there at the age of 72. And again, made the Radio Hall of Fame. To me, it was a trailblazing trendsetter. I mean, look at this. We're podcasting today.
Yeah.
And there's fictional podcasts like there was then. And it all started right here in Arkansas. They ended up changing the name of Waters to Pine Ridge. which was the
Yeah.
fictional town that Lum and Abner's Jot 'em Down store was in. Yeah, Jot 'em Down store. There's a replica there, and I think
It's like a little
national-
museum.
Yeah, it's national. It's on the National Register of Historic Places.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
I've always wanted to go down there, and I just never had been close enough or had the time when I was to actually go down and just see it. But yeah, it was a little brief part of my childhood, and I'm glad I got to experience it like I did, not knowing that it was a rerun, and just hearing it with fresh ears and getting to make up my own mind and have my own ideas of what they look like and what Pine Ridge looked like and what the store looked like. So, yeah.
Major influence, I think without them, you may not have the Beverly Hillbillies,
Right?
which we'll be covering soon. You may not have Green Acres, you may not have Hee Haw, and you may not have Lil Abner, which, if you're paying attention, will be our next episode.
Dun,
Okay.
dun, dun.
How do you think there's any other way they've impacted modern entertainment?
Doing more than one character. Both those guys did several different voices, and I'm not sure if there was anybody else, if they were the ones doing all the voices.
I think they did them all.
I'm thinking they did too, and I kind of think that's groundbreaking. I mean, you get people like Mitch Jane, the bass player and the MC for the Dillards, who were the Darling family on the Andy Griffith Show. A bunch of those boys were from up in Missouri, but they were right around Salem. And I know Mitch lived there for a while and worked. He did a radio show up there called Hickory Holler Time, and it was kind of a Lum and Abner-esque type thing. And he did almost all the voices himself. And he was Mitch, the local DJ, and these people would come in from the hills and come in and visit him, and it'd be some old lady or some old man, and they'd be out buying groceries or getting tick wash for their coon dogs, or it was just silly stuff. But I mean, people would reroute their flight patterns so they could pick it up on the radio to listen to it. I've heard tales told. So yeah, I think they probably had a lasting impact that a lot of people won't even realize unless they listen to our podcast and we're telling them.
Especially during the Great Depression and World War II, they really resonated with people that was listening. All over the world.
Well, don't you think though at that time people needed an escape?
Yeah.
We all need an escape from work and serious things that are going on around in your regular life outside of work, and everybody needs a little bit of a vacation from that or an escape. During the Depression and during the wars and stuff, there was just people they just needed to be able to get all that off their mind for 15 or 20 minutes, and shows like that were a way to do that, I think.
Left a big mark in history. Started right here in Little Arkansas. Ended up having a whole town named after their fictional town, and again was the influence for many things that we still see today. You got anything else to add to Lum and Abner?
Well, Lum Edwards and Abner Peabody, I salute you.
Well, guys, thanks for hanging
That's
out.
all I got.
Thanks for hanging out with us and listening to us. Keep sharing us and listening. We've picked up a lot of views lately, and it's all because of you guys, and we appreciate it. So until next time, we're out of here.
Thanks a lot. Bye, guys.